There's just this thing.
What is up, everybody? How's it going? We are live. We are freaking live. And this is an extra special episode today of the Fit Parent Project. And that is because I've got here a guest speaker who I honestly I've never had on this podcast before. This is episode 100, guys. So this is an extra special episode. So I thought, we need to make it extra fucking special. And I thought, what better way to do that than to bring an extra special fucking guy on here, Mr. Brian Mark, Mr. B Mark Fit. He is my mentor. He is a badass person, and I've known him for the last it's coming up on 3 years now, which is fucking crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, isn't that weird? And we
that is wild.
like that's fucking insane. And he has completely changed my life, my family's life, my life, in so many ways I can't even begin to express or explain it. He is a smart motherfucker in so many ways and he's just smiling. This guy is just sucking it in.
Thank you.
He's tell me how awesome I am. I'm just kidding. You're fucking the best, man. And so today, guys, I just wanted to introduce him. He is a freaking mindset wizard in more ways than one. He is one of the most tenacious people and one of the most integral people I've ever met. And his name is Brian Mark, B Mark Fit. And so, welcome to the podcast. And I'm going to be honest, I never get fucking nervous for my own podcast. Today, I was sitting here, so I remembered, man, how you were talking about and kind of envisioning how the last event was going to go down just to try and get clarity and calm the nerves on that. And so last night and this morning, I was just picturing, I was like, how's this gonna go? I was like, this is gonna go great. I'm not gonna get fucking nervous at all. But it's just really one of those things where no matter how prepared you are for it, it's still just one of those things where it's I don't know, I'm just fucking excited and so grateful that you took time out of your busy day, because you're busy as fuck, to come onto this podcast and spit some value and help people out and do that stuff. So yeah, man, welcome to the podcast. How
Thank you, bro.
Going?
Thank you. I'm excited. Are we into it now? Can I go into it?
Yeah, we're into it. Let's go.
We're into it. All right, dude. First of all, I just want to say thank you because being invited on your podcast was an honor. And me and Austin have a funny relationship, and we both have very cheesy senses of humor. So I feel like I throw my cheeseball jokes at him and he receives and throws it back. So it ends up being good. But it's ironic that we're doing a podcast right now because Austin and I had a conversation 3 years ago when he first started my online coaching program, and he was nervous to go live.
Yep.
And he was nervous to go live. And I remember he told me, he was like, man, I'm really, really nervous to go live. He's like, I'm afraid that I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm afraid that it's not going to go well. I'm afraid that I'm just nervous to go live because I'm afraid that I'm going to say something wrong. And I was like, dude, it literally doesn't matter what you say. You could say anything and I'm going to prove it. And so I went live for 5 minutes and I literally just stared at the screen and I was like,
yeah, you did. I'll never forget that either, because I remember I was like, what this fucker gonna do? What's this guy doing? And you just went live, and then you uploaded it as a podcast episode too. It's just
I did.
It's some guys I don't know what the fuck I'm doing on this episode. I'm deer in headlights. We're just gonna chill here and make it and be awkward and make it feel as much because it doesn't fucking matter, and that's the point of this episode. And I'll never forget that too, because that fucking really helped with my anxiety around going live and getting uncomfortable, and really kind of changed my perspective on how I saw failure in a lot of ways, because it was just does not matter in the grand scheme of things, and it's just an opportunity to learn from in a lot of ways. And so that's so funny that you brought that up. I was thinking about that.
Dude, I actually think it's ironic because obviously you're running the Fit Parent podcast, and there's probably a lot of parents that are on here that have comfort zones that they are not willing to approach because they're afraid of failure. And the comfort zones could be a bunch of different things. Maybe there are parents on here that want to start their own business, but they're afraid of putting themselves out there. They know that they want to do this certain thing that they're really passionate about, but they're afraid to start posting about it. Or maybe it's their fitness journey. They want to commit to their fitness goals, but they're afraid that they're going to get the plan and they're going to fail, or they're not going to be very good at it. And I think that willingness to put yourself out there towards the things that you want, knowing that you might fail, but understanding that it doesn't matter. What matters is forward progress, I think is an important mindset to adopt.
Dude, that's so freaking true. That is so freaking true. I love that. And so before we really dive into it, I was wanting to kind of talk a little bit about, if it's cool with you, kind of your backstory, I guess, kind of because because how we met, like I heard about Brian. For those of you guys that don't know, you know, I had one of my friends from college. Her name was Chelsea, and she ended up, you know, whenever I knew her from grad school, and she offered to pay me for a workout plan when I was just going to like end up doing it for free for her. And so I ended up seeing like the potential in like, oh, like I could make money, like helping people change their lives, right? And instead of doing what I was doing with like the 9 to 5 and just like kind of like hating my life and clock watching and all that. And I ended up, my brother told me so, and the only reason I ever knew about you was because my brother was like, hey, like this guy B Mark Fit on Instagram, like he seems kind of like the real deal. Like he seems kind of like, you know, he seems like a cool guy, pretty like down to earth or whatever. And I was like, I was getting ready to like drive across the country, and I had pneumonia, but I knew, so I felt horrible, and I was like almost dying on this like trip driving across country. And like I just knew in my mind like I wanted to like do something different with my life. And so after I just quit my job, and like because I like didn't like that 9 to 5 lifestyle, and like I felt unfulfilled, and my brother told me about you, and to be transparent, I told you before we even got on this episode, whenever I first saw like you, I was like, fuck that, that's not possible. That guy, he's just talking crazy. Like that's not how the world works. That's not how life works. Like I can't like, you know, start something that and just like, you know, start my own business and help people in that way. And then you know, I ended up binge listening to your podcast on that drive across country for like literally like 40 hours straight. I just had B Mark like fucking just like telling me that I can do these things and that things are possible and that it is, you know, that and I really just like absorbed all that. You're like infiltrating my mind with like positive ass shit and like strategy and teaching me everything that like, you know, that I wanted to know. And I was just like, man, like I saw like the proof that was in your pudding. I was like listening to your podcast. I was like, man, if I could just be one of those people on your podcast one day. And then I ended up being on your podcast twice, which is fucking crazy. And then cool. Like, and I was like, where do I sign up? Like where, like, you know, this guy is like on a different level. Like, and so, you know, I just want to say like I appreciate you for putting, and that's what I really want to say, like, I want to like do what you did, right? In a sense of just giving as much value in your podcast as possible, because like it clearly helps people, and it clearly like helped me out. And it's like, I want to do that for other people, and especially the parents out there who, you know, don't know where to start, don't know what to do with their like health and fitness. They don't know, like, you know, they don't have that info out there that's like readily available and like trusted. And so like just your model of like giving as much as possible, and then, you know, knowing one day you'll get something back eventually, like, but just giving for the sake of giving, I think it's so, like, there's not a lot of fucking people out there like that, right? Like other, like you, Gary Vee, like those are the people that like that come to mind whenever I think about that. It's like, it's like, man, like for you, like what did like what inspired you to just like give as much as possible?
I think that it came from a place of I almost want to say like needing to be loved, as weird as that sounds. So for me, nobody's ever asked me that question. So my story is, when I was, I used to be 21, 22 years old. I was a nightclub bartender manager. And that was a fun lifestyle. Like it was, you know, I was making good money with tips and, you know, partying on the weekends, whatever. But that lifestyle also started involving drugs. And that's when it went from being fun to being destructive. And at the time, like I was, when I was a bartender, I was working out, I was exercising, and I was doing fitness competitions. And that kept me straight and that kept me sober. But then there was one weekend where I went out to Kelowna, which I actually live in Kelowna now, which is ironic. Went out to Kelowna. My friend like offered me drugs for the first time, and I was like, sure. So I took substances for the first time. And after taking substances for the first time, I was like instantly addicted. Like I have a very addictive personality. I've had it since I was like 13 years old. Like I started playing RuneScape when I was 13.
Same.
And I leveled up from, dude, I got to like a level 130. Like I used to skip junior high school and I would play RuneScape for 12 hours. Like, that is like the level that I played at. And so I do that with everything. It's the same. That's the same drive I have with my business now. But with drugs, that's obviously not good. And that's how it happened. And I spiraled really quickly. And I went from, you know, it was like a weekend party thing. And when you're a nightclub bartender, like I literally knew fucking everyone, like everyone in Calgary, like everyone that went out to the bars, anybody that was active in the nightlife, like I knew them and they would come see me and they would get drinks off me. So like I knew everyone. So I went from that person that was like well-known and like people liked me because I was like a fun, energetic guy to like, I was well-known for being a drug addict now because I was like, I was well-known and now I'm a well-known drug addict. So it was hard, dude. And when I ended up getting fired from all of my nightclub bartending jobs, it was like I got fired from one bar, then the next, then the next, then the next. And after getting fired from my fourth bar, I realized I'm like, I need to make a massive shift in my life or I'm going to end up in jail or like dead, like, or, you know, so it was really bad. And so at the time I didn't really have anything. Like the only person that hadn't like basically given up on me was my grandma. And so I had her love, which was awesome. But I almost felt this like desire to like be accepted and be loved. So I just started sharing my story. I was like, I'm like, I understand I made a lot of mistakes and I don't really know how to rectify them. So I'm like, I'm going to start getting sober and this is my journey to sobriety. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Like, these are my workouts. Like, there's like, I just started documenting my story. I just started documenting my like comeback, I guess you could say. And so I documented my comeback. 6 months after my addiction, I did another fitness competition and I ended up placing second at that fitness competition. There was like 30 athletes. I placed second. 6 months after that, I entered another fitness competition. I ended up winning first place and I ended up getting my pro card. So a year after my addiction, I won my professional fitness model status. And at that point, like people were like, what just happened? Like, like I was like watching you, like, you know, I watched you party for like 6 months straight and now you became a fitness professional. Like it was like it was like a 180 in a year. And so I had a lot of people that were like, I need help. Like, I'm like struggling. I'm stuck. I'm partying. I'm like drinking. I'm, you know, I want to be in shape. I want to look like you. And so I started documenting my fitness journey and I started attracting clients. And through that attracting clients, I started my online fitness business. And that, like, once I started signing clients with my online fitness business, dude, I was still a restaurant manager and bartender at the time, but I absolutely despised it. And I despised it because of the conversations I would have on a day-to-day basis. Like every single day, I'd have people sit at the bar and they'd tell me about their glory days. There's like these 50-year-old men talking to me about their glory days, talking to me about how things used to be, talking to me about how like the things that they wish they would have done. And I'm sitting here at like 23 years old and I'm like, I do not want to be that. Like, I'm like, dude, I cannot.
Oh my God. Dude, I resonate with that a lot. Like, just like, and just for those of you guys that are listening right now, like I recently had like, you know, a pretty bad, like mental health, like kind of crisis or whatever for like the last 4 to 6 months. And one thing that I was struggling with was, you know, drinking to an extent. I was having problems with that just because I was having some basically just kind of like some like seeking issues just because I had like a dopamine deficiency going on. And so like I was seeking these things out. But one thing that you said that really resonated with me there was like every morning I was still, you know, getting my workouts and everything like that. I would drive past this bar parking lot to get to the gym parking lot every morning. And every fucking morning I would see people's cars there. And I was just like, people walking into the bar to go drink, like, you know, either they were there from the night before or they were going in that morning because that was their life. And I was just like, fuck, like, I don't want that to be my life. Just seeing what it's kind of like, you know, what you were saying with like hearing people's stories and things like that. It's just like, I don't want to be like that. Like, I want to do something. I want to like, I don't want to talk about the glory days. I want to live in the glory days. And it's one of those things where I was seeing that. I was like, fuck, that cannot be my life. Like, I cannot be that. And that was one of the big things that like I was being proactive about it and doing my best to like try and get into therapy and things like that. But it was one of those things where it was just like seeing that was just like lit an even bigger fire under my ass to be like, I do not want to like, I don't want that to be my life. I could see like a potential future of mine that was not the path I wanted to go down. And so, sorry, but dude,
I get it. And that like, when you like, I think it's good to be fearful of what your life could be like if you don't take action. Because it was like that fear, like seeing other individuals at this bar that I worked at completely unhappy and not satisfied with where they're at made me realize I'm like, I need to do something. And so I remember the first time somebody ever paid me for an online training program. It was like, I was working at the bar. Somebody came up to me and they're like, dude, like, can you write me a meal plan? And I was like, maybe. He's like, I'll pay you. I was like, okay. He's like, how much did you charge? And I was like, $200 for 12 weeks. I'm like, I don't know. So he's like, cool, easy. And he like gave me $200 cash. And I was like, oh, like went to work on this meal plan, and bro, I literally like wrote out every single macro. Like I'm talking about like 12 weeks. I gave him 12 weeks of meal plans. I'm like, here is like a 12-week meal plan. Here you go. But that like $200 signified to me the start of something. I was like, oh, I'm like, oh, I could do this. I'm like, this is something I can do. And so, bro, I was like obsessed with growth. And so I did everything in my power to grow. And like, when I say obsessed, it was like, I would go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would work out. I would get off. I would make a post on Instagram. I would go into work. When I would have 15-minute breaks at work, I would go to the back and like the little pass through at the bar, and I would follow 100 people, and I'd unfollow 100 people. And then I'd take another 15-minute break, follow 100 people, unfollow 100 people. I'd send out 10 DMs. And then I'd take a break, and then I'd make some Instagram stories. Like I was obsessed because I like was willing to do anything that I possibly could to get out of my current situation. And I knew that like the more that I put myself out there, and the more that I follow, like even just when I first started, I was like, the more that I followed people, the more that people would see my name, the more that people would come to my profile. I'm super consistent with my content. So if I follow 100 people a day and even one of them likes my stuff and they like my stuff enough to reach out about a fitness program, I'm like, I'm going to grow a business. And so that was just the mentality that I approached it from, is like, I need to get out of where I'm currently at. I absolutely hate it. I'm like, I found a lot of fulfillment in, serving people with like online coaching. And it was like, I was getting paid to do something that I love. And I was like, yes. And so it came out of like a need to be loved, I think, at first, because I'm like, I didn't really have anybody. So I was like, posting my journey on social media helped me to like overcome that like hard time. It like almost helped me document the process. And then as I started to achieve a little bit of success with online, and when I say a little bit, I sold 1 or 2 clients, I was like, oh, I'm like, this is real. I'm like, this is actually a thing. I can actually make my dreams become a reality. And at that point, once I realized I could make my dreams become a reality, I was like, oh, it's game on. Like, I'm like,
dude, that's awesome.
It's on. Like, it's on.
Dude. And I think something that stands out to me too is like the parallel there, right? That like you mentioned, like you're in this situation and it's almost like, I don't want to be in this situation anymore. Or I don't want to be in this, like, and sometimes I think a lot of times we grow in these periods of time when we are in like this, like this place of like almost desperation in a sense. It's like, I need to get out of this like situation. I need to like this is not working for me. And I feel like there's a parallel there for a lot of, parents out there, a lot of people just in general wanting to like get in shape, wanting to get on like their health and fitness journey. They're like in a place of like pain and just desperation and like uncomfortableness, like in a bad way, right? Not in a sense of growth, but in a sense of like stagnation, I think. And like, what was that?
Can I share something with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this topic actually hits home for me, like the parent stuff, because my whole family struggles with weight. Like my whole family, everybody in my family is like overweight or obese. And I'm not like, I'm not like shaming anybody, but that's just the truth. Like everybody in my family is overweight or obese. And that was the habits that I was given as a kid. Right? When I was growing up, we ordered fast food every night. We ordered pizza, or we'd have leftovers that was fast food. We'd stop at McDonald's. Like that was the life that I lived. Never played sports. Like that was, nobody in my family exercised or worked out. So like that was what I was like given. That was like the circumstances that I was given. And at 14 years old, I remember stepping on the scale and like weighing myself at 14. And I don't know how I had the consciousness to be like this self-aware at 14, but I was like, I don't like this. Like I need to make a massive change. And so I started working out, started exercising, and that's how I fell in love with fitness. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think that a lot of people wait until it's way too late to change their life, including there's a lot of my family members that fell into that category for a long time. And I'm actually going to share a story with you of the day that my auntie's life changed. So my auntie has struggled with weight her entire life. And it's just never been a thing that she wanted to work on. And so last year at my wedding, I got married August 6th to my beautiful wife. My auntie was there and my little cousin was there. Okay. And so my little cousin, he's 21 years old. He got like hammered, like so drunk that he couldn't, like, it was bad, bro. Like he was like puking on himself. His face was going gray and green. It was like horrible. So he's upstairs and he's like almost dying. We had to call an ambulance. And my auntie was, her weight issues were so bad that she couldn't walk up the stairs to see her son.
Oh, wow.
So her son is like dying upstairs. And she couldn't walk up the stairs to see her son.
Damn.
And so I'm like, and at this point, I'm like drunk as hell because it's my wedding
Yeah.
night.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm ready to have a Tony Robbins breakthrough. And I'm like, sat her down. I'm like, enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is like the fact that you can't go upstairs and see him. Like, that's enough. Like, we're done doing this.
Yeah.
And she like burst into tears, had a breakdown, had a breakthrough. He ended up being okay and he's good now. And that moment caused her to shift her life, and she's lost 100 pounds in the last year.
That's fucking awesome. Wow.
Yes, I love her. She's like crushing it. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I think that what a lot of parents don't realize is that what they're doing right now, like the choices that you're making in your day-to-day life, the food that you're eating, you know, the exercise habits that you have, the mentality in which you approach life, if you're choosing to be positive, optimistic, or negative and pessimistic, your kids are going to learn those things.
Yeah.
And that really is the number one thing that I'm like super passionate about. Yeah. Because like I have a 14-year-old daughter that I ended up, you know, I'm her stepdad, but I chose not to have kids of my own my whole life up until the point that I felt like I could be a powerful leader for those individuals, because I understand that every single thing that I do, every single action that I take on a day-to-day basis, my kid is learning that.
Dude, that is so true.
I look at my younger brothers and sisters who were like, my mom kicked me out when I was 8, which is another topic for another day. Yeah. So I ended up living with a different side of my family, but I look at my brothers and sisters who were raised by, you know, my mom, who didn't really have the best eating habits, and that like they're all overweight. Yeah. And then I look at their kids, and their kids are overweight too. And I'm like that's where it has to stop. Yeah. Right. Like you just like, if you're listening to this and you're a parent, you have to make the decision that you're going to be better. And if you can't do it for yourself, you've got to do it for your kids. Yeah. You've got to do it for the people that are looking up to you. And it's like, as painful as it was for my auntie to go through that experience and like have that, like, she couldn't walk up the stairs to see her son. It was the experience that caused her to shift her life. And, you know, Janelle Wheel, she has a very similar story. Absolutely. I just think it's super important that like parents know, because I am a parent now, like of a 14-year-old, and I'm like, I'm a very good leader for her. Like I show her how to, she's 14 years old. She goes to the gym with me at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I was about to say, 4 a.m.
Right. But that's the level that I want to play at, because like I want my kid to have a long, healthy, happy life. And it all starts with the decisions that you're making on a day-to-day basis.
Absolutely, dude. I totally agree with that. And that resonates like a ton, just because like I have a 4-year-old, and it's one of those things like the thing I like to tell, because I work with like 95% of my clients are parents. And so it's like, I always try to emphasize like, you are their role model, whether you like it or not. Like you are going to be setting these good habits. They're going to pick up on your habits, both good and bad. So you may as well give them as many fucking good habits as possible and like set the tone for them and give them what, you know, a lot of them didn't have for their childhood and their teenager years and things like that, because their parents, you know, weren't there for them in that way. And so it's like, this is your opportunity to like break that generational cycle.
Yes. You just said, you nailed it. You nailed it. And here's the thing. Here's the thing with parents. Okay. You're like, if you're a parent, I empathize with you, because you're doing the best job that you know how to with the information that you currently are given right now. So like the information that you have in your mind right now, you're doing literally the best job that you possibly can as a parent at this very moment in time. And so you need to give yourself a pat on the back, because like just showing up and being a parent is difficult. And I know that because I am one. Yeah. And so that is the first thing that I want to say is like, just by being alive and being a parent, like you're doing a good job. Yeah. And just because it happened to you doesn't mean that you need to pass it on to the next person. You feel, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. And absolutely. I also think that a lot of people use the wrong gauge. And here's what I mean by that is like, so my stepdad was like when I was growing up, like very abusive and physically abusive and emotionally, all of it. Yeah. And so a lot of people that are listening to this, they had like really rough upbringings, whether like, you know, a generation or two ago, like you got your ass kicked. If you right. Yeah. We're talking like you got your ass whooped. And so I think that a lot of people, what they'll do is they're like, well, I don't beat my kids. And so I am a good parent. Like that's the gauge that they're using. Yeah. But that can't be the gauge that you use. No. You're like, I'm not as bad as that, so I'm doing good. It's like, no. Like you can do better. Yeah. And I think that's the entire purpose of like self-development and like becoming the best version of yourself, is understanding that like you can do better, and like not like I'm better than that, but like what kind of person do I want to be? What kind of parent do I want to be? What do I want my kids to say about me when they're 18?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What do I want
Oh,
my kids
that's
to
so
say
true.
about me?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think about that every fucking day, honestly. Like it's like, because sometimes, in the moments, like when you're a parent, like, you can get irritated, or your emotions you can react sometimes instead of responding. And it's like in those moments, that's when I'm reminding myself, I'm like, fuck, like I know that, and I had good parents in general, but there were moments where we would get heated and things like that. And I still remember those moments, and it's like, man, that sucked when that happened. It's like, I want to have as little of that as possible for when my kid is, 18, 25, 30, my age. I want them to look back and be like, damn, my dad really was there for me. Not only, not only like physically present, but like emotionally and mentally present for him too. Cause like, I feel like that's something that like, it's a byproduct of the older generations and just not being advanced enough with all the information that's readily available now. But it's like, I want to do better for my kid, because like, I don't want him to feel not seen or not heard, or that he can't express himself.
I'm cutting you off because that's it. You just nailed it. Yeah. Like that's it. Like being a good parent isn't just about setting the tone with your healthy habits and the foods that you're eating and the exercises that you're doing and the way that your body looks. Yeah. That's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is like the ability to regulate your own emotions. Yeah. What we're talking about is like the ability to feel good within yourself about yourself. What we're talking about is the ability to like shift your mood into a positive one on a daily consistent basis, so that when your kid gets off school, you can be fully present with them and you can have a conversation versus snapping because you don't have control of your emotions. Yeah. Because a lot of people don't. Like, I'm just going to keep like call a spade a spade. Like a lot of people aren't emotionally regulated, meaning somebody cuts them off in traffic and they're like, bah, and they like snap and they blow a gasket. And the reason that you blow a gasket is because you don't have the ability to regulate your own emotions. And so that's why I think fitness is always like the anchor for me. It's always the thing that I like come back to, because like no matter what I've done in my life, like now, like even as a business coach, like I still am like committed to my fitness journey, because I understand that the way that I feel physically and the way that I perceive myself and whether or not I like myself when I look in the mirror, like is going to impact how I treat other people. And so that's true. especially important when you've got, kids that you're raising.
Oh yeah.
To you, right?
Yeah. Cause a lot of people, I mean, they don't realize how, like, cause I think fitness, like if you can get like consistent with fitness, you can, there's so many parallels in how being consistent with that can apply to other areas of your life. Like, if, and I think a lot of people, they are in that reactive state, or they're in that like state of like emotional dysregulation because they're in pain, right? They're in pain. They're not like, they're not, necessarily, they haven't got new information to help with like personal development and growth. And so they're like in this vicious cycle of just being in pain and not being where they want to be, and being unhappy and maybe being unconfident. And then that leads, and it kind of like, it bursts out of them at times, and it leaches out into other parts of their life, including their kids' lives, their families' lives, and things like that. And it's just like, it's a tough position to be in, especially because, they only know what they know, right? You only have like a certain level of awareness until you get new information, on those things. And so it's like, I think for a lot of people, like, I think for a lot of people, just getting clear on what they don't like and what they actually want to get out of their, either fitness journey or whatever it is that they're trying to work on for like self-development, I think is huge. And so, and I know we only have a couple of minutes left, but I was wanting to ask you about like, vision, right? Like if for a parent who is, trying to start a health and fitness journey, for a parent who's trying to like, like get clarity on what they want. Like, can you talk for a moment about like the importance of vision and getting clarity on your goals? Cause that's something that you're really fucking good at, is like you have gotten like, anytime you've ever talked about your vision for your, whenever you went, because for those that don't know, like, whenever you went to that summer camp, right, you got really like fucking like clear on your vision of like the life that you wanted to fucking live. Yeah. I mean, you've got a vision board right behind you even. And so it's like the importance of getting clear on what you want to give you like almost like a map essentially, or like almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense of like, what you want in life. Like, how do you, or what, like, value wise, or what do you see, like, how would you tell a parent who's wanting to get on, like, clear on their vision? What would you tell them, I guess?
How do you want me to go like deep and philosophical, or like
yeah, you can go as deep as you want. Yeah.
Okay. I think that my belief, this is something that's worked very well for me. Okay. So I'm just going to share my own personal experience, and you can take with it what you will. Like if this works for you, awesome. If it doesn't work for you, that's cool. But I'm going to share what's worked really, really well for me. I believe in the law of attraction. First of all, I believe that the things that you put out into the universe is what you get back from the universe. That's my belief. That's my core belief. I believe that the energy that you put out is the energy that you get back. And I also believe that the things that you think about and the things that you talk about and the things that you say attract those things to you. Now, I believe that a lot of people, a lot of parents, a lot of coaches, a lot of individuals, when they're speaking about their goals or they're speaking about their life, everybody's always talking about what they don't like or what they don't want. Like, I don't like being overweight. I don't like being in debt. I don't like being tight for money. I don't like the way that I look. I don't like the way that I feel. I don't want. And I think that when you talk about the things that you don't want, you talk about the things that you don't like, you talk about the things that you hate, you talk about the things that piss you off, you gossip about that person at work that fucking made you angry, all of those things. What you're doing is you're creating a negative energy circle. Right. And with this little negative energy circle, you're drawing more of it in because you're saying out of your mouth, I don't like these things, but you're also saying it, which tells the universe to give you more. Well, he's talking about it. Obviously, he wants it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be talking about it. You know I don't like it. Why are you talking about it every day then? If you don't like it, if you don't like it, like why? Why are we gossiping about this? If you don't like this, so the way that I choose the most useful belief that I have, I believe, is that I only focus on things that I want, and I only focus on the goals that I'd like to achieve. And I only focus on like the direction that I'm going. And I only focus on accomplishing my goals. I only focus on like being delusionally optimistic about like achieving positive outcomes. And so I'm like, if you're like listening to this right now, and I'm just going to be honest, if you listen to this right now, you look down, you're like, I hate the way my body looks. And if that's you, then I want you to understand that if one person in this entire planet has ever lost weight, then you can lose weight. That's the truth. If one person on the whole planet has ever been on a weight loss journey, you can go on a weight loss journey. You can literally start today and you can be 30 pounds down in the next 6 months. So if you look down at your body, you're like, I don't like the way that I look. I need to make a radical shift. Then I want you to start writing down what you would like to look like and how you would like to feel and what kind of parent you'd like to be and how it would positively impact your life to look the way that you want to look, how it would positively impact your life to feel the way that you want to feel. Right? And write down all of those things. Write down, like, I want to be down 20 pounds. I want to be in the best shape of my life. I want to see my six pack for the first time. I'd love to be a strong leader for my son who looks up to me and is doing everything that I ask him to do. I want to be there for him. I want to be present. I want to be emotionally stable. I want to be like happy. Write down those things and start talking about those things every day and ruminating on those things every single day and focusing on those things every single day and hire coaches that will help you remind you of those things every single day, so that when you slip back into your negative habits, your negative thought patterns, your coach can be like, hey, remember this? Hey, you're being negative right now, but you remember you said you want to lose 20 pounds? You told me you wanted this. Okay, so like get out of your head. Come here. Let's go back to this. Right. And then you just stay focused on that thing that you want. And I believe that is how you accomplish your goals. So
so true.
In like, to sum it all up, I would say start by figuring out what you don't want, because a lot of people know what they don't want because we talk about it all the time, right? So like, I don't want to be fat. I don't want to be a bad parent. I don't want to be angry all the time. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be full of resentment. I don't want to be out of gas when I walk up the stairs. So like, write down all the things that you don't want, and then ask yourself what's the opposite of those things, and figure out what you want.
Yep, dude, that's so valuable. That's so valuable. And I've actually done that before because you told me to do it. And I basically wrote out all the things that I did not fucking like, or like the qualities or the traits of somebody that I don't ever want to be. And then I just did and then on the other side of that page, drew a line down the middle and I flipped it over and I just wrote the opposite of what that looked like. And I was like, that's my next level version of myself that I want to step into. Right. And so I think getting clarity is it's so huge because it gives you like you can, if it almost like helps you like hold it in your hand in a sense before you actually get to hold it in your hand. And I think that in those moments when you're like struggling or you're down or you're, back in your negative bullshit, like having somebody that can help pull you through in those moments is very helpful, but also having like a powerful fucking why. Because I think a lot of people have surface level reasons, and those surface level reasons because they're afraid to dig deeper into why they actually want it. Like if they just take that next step and dig deeper, that's a more powerful why. And that can, that can keep them going, I think, a lot longer than a lot of these like surface level. I just want to lose 10 pounds or I want to do this. Like, I mean, yeah, that's cool. But like, how is that going to fucking impact your kid? Like, right. Like, how is that going to impact like the quality of your life and their lives going forward? That is like, that resonates and will, I feel like, have a much greater impact on somebody's success than I just want to lose 10 pounds or I just want to fit into a bikini or whatever.
I'm going to take you to the depth of how I stay motivated. Okay. Yeah. So whenever I'm feeling like I don't want to take action or I don't want to move forward or I don't want to achieve my goals, whenever I feel like these things, I want you to imagine. So who do you love the most in
my life?
Yeah.
Oh, Jessica.
A couple people. Jessica. Yeah. So I want you to imagine walking up to Jessica, looking her in the eyes and be like, babe, we got to sell the house and move into a small apartment. I got to fold the business and go back to my 9 to 5. We can't do this anymore. Right?
Fuck that. That
I know.
Just the thought of that gave me chills, man.
I know.
Man.
I know. Yeah. So for the parents that are listening to this right now, I want you to look and like, so if you're struggling right now to get your fitness journey started and you've got kids, I want you to imagine your son turns 18 and they are severely overweight. And they learn all of their exercise and eating habits from you. I want you to think about that for a second. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, and then like, I want you, imagine your son looking you in the eyes and being like, I struggle with confidence. Like, I don't like the way that I look. I hate the way that I feel. I hate the way that I feel when I look in the mirror. I hate the way that my body looks. Imagine your son or daughter saying these things to you and understand that they learn from you.
Yeah.
That's how you get started. It's like, okay, like, that's it. That's it. Like, I'm sure talking about that.
Yeah, right? Dude. It's crazy that you mentioned that. Cause like, well, you're the scenario that you laid out for me just then, like, with, me having to say something like that to Jessica, we very recently, like had a similar kind of conversation of like going all in, right? Going all in on my vision and going all in on the business and re-upping with the mastermind and everything like that. And like, one thing, we had some hard conversations and some like, emotionally like raw conversations about some of that. And one thing that I did to like light a fire under my ass is I've got a sticky note up right here that says, your family will suffer if you don't show up. And then I've got another one in my fucking desk right now that I have to open every day that says, remember her tears. Because, and it's just like, I'm not fucking messing around. Like, I'm going all in on this, and I will remind myself every day of what the alternative is if I don't show up today for myself. And so it's crazy, man. That's I love that. Awesome. Well, hey, I want to respect your time, man. And I know that we're kind of coming to a close. So I fucking appreciate the hell out of you for coming on to this episode and celebrating the 100th episode with me. I couldn't think of a better.
Congratulations. 100 is
Thanks, man. Hey, dude, we got like almost like 600 like monthly listeners right now. Like we like things are blowing up. It's crazy.
And that's so cool.
And it's because, it's because you told me to like quit kicking the can down the road, get off my ass and make my podcast already. So I did it. And here we are, episode 100. And I just want to say thank you, man, for everything that you've done for me and everything that you've done for my life, my family's life, the impact that you fucking had on me that has trickled down and helped me impact so many other people in terms of like being able to connect with those people and actually find those people and have them find me. It just like fucking, man, I don't know how else to thank you other than just saying thank you. I appreciate you. You're the like one of the like realest people I know in my life, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for you. And so I just want to say thank you, bro. I love you, bro. And yeah, let's go. So where can they find you, by the way?
So the Real Brian Mark is my Instagram. I've got 2 podcasts. One is called the Change Lives, Make Money Online Training podcast. So if you are an online coach or personal trainer, you'll find value. And the second podcast I have is called Rise. Rise. So search Brian Mark Rise. If you are into like mindset, it's like motivation and mindset and me screaming at you.
I listen every morning. It's
combined into one.
It hypes me the fuck up every morning. I listen to it in the car on my way to the gym, and every morning I'm just like, whoo! And then it like inspires me to like go all in. I'm like, I'll film videos in my car. I'm just like, I'm so fucking hyped up from this. Like, I just feel like I'm about to crush the day. Funny enough, somebody, one of my clients is commenting, Rise is so good. So take it from them and take it from me. It's very motivational and inspirational and gets you going in the morning. So it's like a cup of coffee or pre-workout. So
I love it. I love it.
Cool, man. Awesome. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate the hell out of you. And on that note, guys, that's all we got for this episode. And we'll talk to you all later. Peace, guys.
Peace.